welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley speaking to you from Washington, D.C. We're recording on the afternoon of the 6th of February, 2015. Now, we're trying to arrange an interview with Reverend Edward Pinkney from the prison, we believe, in Marquette, Michigan, where he is currently being held. And this will require some technical adjustments. Once Reverend Pinkney calls, we're going to put him on and keep him on as long as he can stay with us. So we have to ask for the patience and the kind cooperation of other guests, including some in Europe. We're hoping to get to Madrid as well as to Athens today to get the updates from there. But for right now, let me just start in, and please bear with me. If Reverend Pinkney comes on the line, we're going to put him on immediately, and that will break into the analysis to some extent. We're obviously going to get the report on Greece. We've got to get the report on the diplomacy of the new Syriza government. They've been all over Europe in the past week. A tremendous diplomatic offensive by Alexis Tsipras, the Prime Minister of Greece, and the Finance Minister, Yanis Varoufakis. But let's look for a minute at this danger of war in Europe, looming war in Europe. The Kiev fascist madmen are on the march, and they're backed up, of course, every step of the way by the neocon fascist madmen here in Washington, D.C., as well as the humanitarian bombers, the Samantha Power and Kerry types, right, the Russophobes. So let's just take a look. To set the stage, you have to realize that Ukraine, under Poroshenko and under that rotten coalition government of Yatsenyuk, Yats the rats, as we call him, that is a failed state. That is collapsing. And the best index of that is the Hryvnia, the Ukrainian monetary unit. The Ukrainian monetary unit a year ago, in the allegedly bad old days of Yanukovych, the Hryvnia was holding steady at about 9 to a U.S. dollar. As of yesterday, that is to say Thursday, the 5th of February, the Hryvnia collapsed by 34% in one day. Now, that's that currency war we told you about. Remember when the Swiss franc rocketed up 30% plus in a single day, in a couple of hours even? Well, this time it's the Hryvnia, except it's not up, it's down, minus 34%. Now, that's an attack that can only be done using credit default swaps and other high-potency, high-destructive power derivatives. So that was yesterday. More than a third of the currency gone in a single day. What does it look like today? Not so good. Today, Friday, the 6th of February, down 9%. So it's getting up to almost, it's closing in on one half, 35% or so, 45% lost in 2 days. So when you have currency swings like that, you're dealing with a failed state. We'll get back to why this is. But the other side of it, the other very dramatic feature, is the pocket, the encirclement, right? The kessel, the sack around this place called Debaltseve. The siege of Debaltseve, D-E-B-A-L-T-S-E-V-O, really in Russian, since that's really what it is, but D-E-B-A-L-T-S-E-V-E in Ukrainian. This is a pocket where the Ukrainian army, I guess we can call it, plus fascists from the Ukrainian National Guard, right? The various fascist battalions have been pocketed. They have been surrounded, right? This is like that Falaise pocket. This is going to turn into a killing field or a mass surrender soon enough. Since January 17th, it has been essentially cut off. And if you look at the map, it's a salient. It's a very long, thin salient of fascist-held territory jutting into the pro-Russian part of the country. And the Ukrainian army, the Poroshenko people, and Yatsenyuk, they have been desperate to hang on to this, right? 1 year after the coup that put the fascist clique into power in Kiev the 21st of February. So we're coming up on the first anniversary. And what's happening there is the key to everything else. Why do we have this unseemly rush? Kerry goes to Kiev to express his solidarity with the fascists. You know, I would have thought Kerry got enough fascism at home from his wife, right? Teresa Heinz Kerry, of course, herself comes out of Salazar fascism, the Antonio Salazar, fascist dictator of Portugal for many decades. That's her background. But no, he's got to go and get fascism on the job, and that's Poroshenko and his friends in Kiev. And then we've had, on the same day, Merkel, the unfortunate Chancellor of Germany, and Hollande, the much buffeted President of France, were also visiting Poroshenko yesterday, the 5th of February. And then the two of them, Merkel and Hollande, have flown on to Moscow to meet with Putin. What are they really trying to do? They're desperately trying to save about 8,000 to 10,000 fascist soldateska loyal to Kiev from being wiped out in this pocket. It reminds me of the days when the Tamil Tigers turned out to be run from NATO and from Europe. When the Tamil Tigers were about to be wiped out, we had this parade of Miliband and others, Kushner, all the wonderful humanitarians suddenly discovered that the terror group had to be kept going. In this case, these strenuous exertions by Western diplomacy have everything to do with trying to save that spearhead of 10,000 fascist troops that have been surrounded, right? And it's beginning to look a bit like World War II on the ground, right? The Keil und Kessel, the armored spearheads, and the attempt to surround and cut off these forces. So we don't know the results of the meetings here in the Kremlin with Putin. We simply know that there are some atmospherics. It doesn't look very cordial. But on the other hand, Merkel and Hollande have to come up with concessions because their side is getting slammed. Their side is getting clobbered on the ground. They're trying to get a ceasefire. Yeah, of course. Ceasefire to save those 10,000 fascists. Once they're gone, the entire Ukrainian military is also just about gone. So it's clear that there's a lot of tension. There are no glad handings, no grip and grin sessions for the photographers, 75-minute working dinner, one brief photo op. That was it. Hollande wants this to lead to a ceasefire. However, Steinmeier, the German foreign minister, social democrat, Steinmeier is very pessimistic. He says, we can't even say there's a chance to get a ceasefire. All we have is hope for a ceasefire. This is a bid to save Debaltseve. And Nuland, the fascist passionaria of the State Department, Nuland, the neocon, is saying that Ukraine right now is the battlefront for NATO and for the struggle of democracy. Unfortunately, this pedant, this militaristic pedant, Ashton Carter, it has told the hearings in the Senate that he wants to start bombing. He wants to start, not bombing, but sending the heavy weapons to the fascist forces. Bombing, I'm sure, comes later, but not right off the bat. We'll be back in just a second here on World Crisis Radio. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Now, as we just mentioned, the Ukrainian monetary unit, the Hryvnia, has fallen by almost 45% in 2 days. It is a failed state. The entire Kiev fascist clique is collapsing. There's nothing there. And therefore, we have Merkel, Hollande, Kerry running hither and yon to try to prop up this imperialist construction, this Staatsgebilde, right? This simulacrum of a state which is there. Steinmeier pessimistic. The neocons with Nuland freaking out. Ashton Carter, Obama, withdraw the name of Ashton Carter. Kick him out. Get him out of there. Get rid of him. That's a big favor to him to have that moment in the sun, but he blew it. So get him out of there. Now let's just look at the European pattern. Obama, under pressure from Susan Rice, another fascist passionaria. Susan Rice, I don't know whether she's a humanitarian bomber or a neocon. She's probably about 50-50. She's talking about sending sophisticated heavy-duty U.S. weapons to the Ukrainian fascists. That's a very bad idea, because at this point, it's too late to save this salient. It won't make any difference. This is Stalingrad with the Ukrainian fascists being on the losing side. So if you sell them, if you give them these weapons, then what are they going to do? They're going to sell them to ISIS. They're going to sell them to Al-Qaeda. They're going to sell them to the highest bidder in the great arms bazaar of the Middle East, and they're not that far away, right? Across the Black Sea, sell them into Turkey, and Turkey will be glad to pass them on to whatever terror group is asking for them, right? You don't need even Javelin anti-tank missiles. Don't do it. Obama, back off. Back off. Not one GI, not one penny, not one dime for the Ukrainian fascist clique. All the more so is we just had the European defense ministers. And at this meeting yesterday, the European defense ministers are largely against it. They're against it. For example, Ursula von der Leyen, Leyen, she's the defense minister, Christian Democrat defense minister of Germany. No weapons, she says, nix weapons, only sanctions. The Dutch, that is Janine Hennis-Plasschaert, Plasschaert, she also says no weapons, economic sanctions only. Refreshingly, the Italian defense minister, Roberto Pinotti, P-I-N-O-T-T-I, Pinotti also says no weapons, only sanctions. The British, with their usual weasel words, are trying to paper it over, trying to avoid a break, but there is no consensus. The European defense ministers essentially say no. And that's, I think, the beginning of great wisdom. And it's possible to imagine, with a little bit of work, that you could even go on and start taking down some of the sanctions, right? Germany, France, Italy, the big continentals, Hungary, Greece, Cyprus, others could easily join in shutting down this ridiculous economic blockade. This is now getting to be an existential threat to all of you. I don't want to be alarmist. I can't paint the Third World War on the wall every day of the week. But now this is getting very, very serious, very, very grim. We've got stupid Joe Biden, Motormouth Joe, shooting off his motor mouth in Poland with that group of revanchists that are the Polish government, right? All hotheads, ready to fight to the last American, always, right? Ready to fight to the last American. That's the common denominator. And then, of course, the Lithuanian defense minister. Oh, yeah. They want all weapons. Again, ready to fight to the last American. Hagel, I think, waffles. I think he might want it, but he doesn't want to preempt Obama's decision. And we have this character, Breedlove. Breedlove. It sounds a little bit sordid. But the NATO commander, the guy who got the job when General Allen didn't, U.S. Air Force General Philip Breedlove says he doesn't come out and say send weapons to the fascists, but he says you should use all the tools in the tool bag. Well, that's not good enough. That's adventurism. Russia's ambassador to France, Alexander Orlov, says to Europe 1, French radio, there's an urgent need to avoid war. Quote, I would not say it's a last chance meeting, but it's not far off. Now look, are we in the dream time of July 1914? Just about a century after the fact? This dreamlike climate of unreality where you can't make it add up? I regard this now as an emergency. I would call, for example, on somebody like Professor Stephen Cohen and The Nation magazine of his wife, Katrina vanden Heuvel, at those Russian meetings that were the U.S.-Russian dialogue held in the Hart Senate office building last June. They were lamenting the fact that during the Cold War you had an organized peace lobby that could at least throw something into the scales against the warmongers. But that peace lobby has largely collapsed. Unfortunately, the neocon and humanitarian bomber war lobby, they're still there. And you don't know where they get their money, right? Is somebody in the Far East, like Beijing, are they interested in going to the top of the mountain and watching the tigers fight? I don't know. But the U.S.-Russian confrontation has no rhyme or reason. We repudiate it. We condemn it. It must be avoided at all costs. We cannot act as if Ukraine is an ally. Ukraine is not an ally. Ukraine has no obligations to the United States. This is a one-way street, all the more so. Ukraine has now received, they've already got $4.6 billion of a $17 billion line of credit for the IMF, right? They've been getting the tranches, but nevertheless, Ukraine is about to collapse. That would be, unless they get an immediate cash infusion of $15 billion. We say, not one penny for the Ukrainian fascists. Put that money into Greece, and I'll tell you later on how to do it. $15 billion could stabilize Greece for a year, more than a year. When their positive measures kick in, they'll increasingly not need it. But there's plenty to be done that's positive without looking to pick fights in the service of this bunch of Ukrainian hotheads. Notice also the pattern of military defeat. Debaltseve is pocketed. There's another pocket, Vuhlehirsk, Vuhlehirsk. That's a smaller pocket nearby. That one has been reduced. That's gone. All the fascist forces there have been done. Back in a minute. Welcome back to Crisis Radio. So the NATO defense ministers say no weapons for the Ukrainian fascists, right? Anybody in Europe with any brains wants to get 1,000,000 miles away from Poroshenko and his clique. And therefore Kerry runs in and Biden runs in and Susan Rice is deeply troubled. This is now insane. We've got to mobilize some kind of a credible counterweight. There's got to be a demonstration somewhere, somehow, sometime, be it in Washington or some mission in New York City, right? UN Plaza, whatever it is. Beware of these little Baltic countries, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. Their stock in trade is they have significant Russian minorities in those countries, and they mistreat those people. They savagely deprive them of their normal civil rights and human rights. And then they turn around and they expect to have the U.S. come in again, fight for them to the last American. This is absolutely insane. This is no longer to be tolerated. It's a way that the United States is subsidizing the demagogy of these Russophobic scoundrel politicians like that crazy woman who runs Lithuania, right? All of these people, they have to go. They should fight their own battles. And if they don't want to fight battles, they should come to a modus vivendi with Russia. And that means Finlandization. Finlandization means they should not be in NATO. How in God's name did we ever get Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia in NATO? It's thanks to Clinton, I guess. And if not thanks to Clinton, then the process was continued and completed under Mad Dog Bush. So there's also stuff going on at Mariupol. As I said, Debaltseve is the current pocket that they're all running to try to save. Vuhlehirsk pocket has been reduced. That's gone. And then we've got Mariupol, which is in the beginning phases of what will become a siege, I think. The fascist forces have largely brought this on themselves, right? Their incessant shelling of the pro-Russians across the ceasefire line is what has goaded the Russian side into this countermeasure. A couple of more things about General Breedlove, right? Philip Breedlove is now not the only military warmonger. We also have General Ben Hodges. Ben Hodges is the USARUR, United States Army commander. I guess it used to be in Heidelberg, now it's Wiesbaden. Anyway, this is the Condor Legion, right? Putin was talking about the Foreign Legion fighting for the West, fighting for the NATO side in Ukraine. I'd call it the Condor Legion because this is all looking very much like the Spanish Civil War from 1936 to 1939, the dress rehearsal for World War II. Good God. And that was all done, right, the bombing of Guernica, right? That's sort of stuff that's going on now with the fascists shelling these towns, right? U.S. television will show you people getting killed. They won't tell you that it's the Kiev fascists that are doing most of that killing. So General Hodges is now, he wants to muscle in and get a piece of the action, right? He was on Rachel Madcow this week on MSNBC with his message of warmongering. And I don't know what's with Rachel Madcow, right? She got her career going based on being against the Iraq War, but now she's morphing into a quite a serious warmonger. So Hodges says that USARUR, United States Army European Command, is going to be sending trainers in there. The United States Army will train 4 companies of the Ukrainian National Guard. Wait a minute, those are fascists. Those are fascist gutter snipes, scurrilous SS types or SA types. Sorry, the brown shirt type, right? The proles. That's who's in the Ukrainian National Guard, right? That's the right sector and these other crazy groups. So this is going to be called Rapid Trident 2015. It's going to happen in the area, the fascist stronghold of Lvov or Lviv or Lemberg, and that's coming up. All of this. Also, the U.S. is buying the Kozak. What's the Kozak? This sounds like Saturday Night Live. The Kozak is a Ukrainian armored car, and the U.S. is supposedly buying these things at about $200,000 a pop. Well, if you don't have any social services, and if the fascist Republicans want to cut your pension, then you know what's going on. All of this conflict, by the way, is already, as I speak to you, on display in Munich for that famous yearly Munich Security Conference. Remember, in January it's Davos, and in February it's nearby Munich, and that's the Wehrkunde, right? That's the old Wehrkunde. You remember I once clashed with the founder of that, this guy Kleist, from a well-known German family, been around quite a while. And Kleist got angry with me because I told him Dan Quayle was a moron, and somehow he was scandalized by that and would never talk to me. Well, I'm sorry, Dan Quayle was a moron. Von Kleist is no longer with us, but his misleadership is continuing. We did have some skepticism on the fascist forces coming from CBS News, right? That the fascist forces, although they don't call them that, are not getting supplies. They don't get clear orders, and there's a lot of resentment, right? I think we're up to the 4th attempt by levée en masse, right? The mass recruitment of fighters into those forces, but a lot of people are running away. They just don't want them. And we also have interesting confusion on the Ukrainian side, right? What's the propaganda line? A general in the Ukrainian army said this week, we are not fighting Russian regular units, but Yatsenyuk then came on and said, The only thing we're fighting are Russian regular units, right? There are no Ukrainians on the other side. All right. Now, the other principal task of today, beyond calling for a mass mobilization and on social media, started on social media and take it elsewhere as far as you can, U.S. butt out of Ukraine. Ukraine is the Russian sphere. We've had enough. We're sick of war. We don't trust this leadership. Don't trust Obama, Biden, Kerry. They're all discredited. They're all incompetent. We're not going to be led into war by a bunch of losers. And that goes double for the Republicans. Republicans, in the meantime, have revealed themselves to be the classic warmongers that they always were. But now, the situation with Greece. I can't go through all the details because it's so it's a vast diplomatic effort that they've put in, right? We've had Varoufakis, the finance minister, running around all over Europe, Tsipras, the prime minister, going to selected capitals. And let's just start with the most important things. We hope to get our man in Athens on later on. Putin has invited Tsipras to Moscow for May 9th. Now, May 9th, that's the 70th anniversary of the victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. I'm not exactly jubilant about this because May 9th is several months away, and it looks like Putin is looking for cover, saying, well, I didn't invite him to talk about debt and money. It's just I'm inviting all kinds of people to come to Moscow, right? Obama is invited, but he's not going to go. And the U.S. better send somebody because that's another big insult. But the idea is Siluanov, the finance minister of Russia, says if Greece requests financial assistance, a loan from Russia, that will be actively considered by the Moscow government. I think that may be the biggest result of this week of diplomacy. Back in a minute on World Crisis Radio. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. Now, we've just gone through. Putin invites Tsipras to Moscow for May 9th. Siluanov, the Russian foreign minister, says that Russia would favorably consider a Greek loan request. But let's go directly to Athens and our very fine correspondent, observer there. That's Michael Chiotinis, who can give us the lowdown on this week of very intense diplomatic activity. Every main capital in Europe, plus the European Central Bank, plus the European Commission. And we've even got Varoufakis now scheduled to come and meet with Jack Lew. Jack Lew is going to receive Varoufakis in the near future. So, Michael, what does it all mean?
Hello, Webster. Now, it just came out right now. I just seen the poll came out today. It shows extraordinary popular support for the government. That's very interesting. Even conservative voters, in other words, people who voted for New Democracy in the election, 50% of them agree with Syriza's strategy, which is, I think, very hopeful. Now, what's happening in Europe? Varoufakis and Tsipras went on a trip all over Europe, met with finance ministers and prime ministers and presidents. He gained much support, I think, especially from the French president and the Italian prime minister. But the main thing is the main thing was the Varoufakis-Schäuble meeting, and many people say that didn't go so well. I disagree. I think that it went well, because yes, they didn't discuss the Greek debt restructuring, and yes, on the other hand, Schäuble insisted that we have to do certain things and so on. But the main thing to observe here is that Schäuble accepted the fact that there is something to talk about, and that's a major shift in the whole European public discussion. Now, why didn't they talk about, why no one talks about debt restructuring, Greek debt write-off. In my view, the main thing is that as long as when a Greek debt write-off will be discussed, then the discussion will open for Spain, for Italy, and of course for France. And we are talking many trillions there, and the banks are really not happy with that. And now, another interesting thing, I want to be quick here. I'm sorry to switch subjects so quickly. Another thing is the move by the ECB to stop accepting Greek debt as collateral for loans. Many people say that was a blackmail towards the Greek government. I think it's more than that. It's a bit more complicated. In my view, it's actually a warning against Germany to come to an agreement, because the way I see it is Draghi telling Merkel, do you really want to go down this road? Because no one wants it. Even Germans don't want it. We don't have time now to discuss. Maybe in our next.
Michael, on this, I think you're right, because what Draghi did was this was a double-edged thing from Draghi. He says we're not going to take Greek bonds as collateral, but we're going to have 60 billion euros of emergency funding through the Bank of Greece. That's fine. And then you have this Jens Weidmann of the Bundesbank saying, no, you can't do that. You can't finance government bonds directly. So there's somebody in Germany is freaked out on that.
Yes, and I think yes, and I think that Draghi is trying to come as to come before the German government in pushing, so that the Germans stop pushing more. So the Germans don't be in front of the marching, the opposing the Greek strategy. Now, the main thing is here to understand what the power relations are in Europe. And in my view, Germany is looking at two very different kind of special interests: industrialists and bankers. And I think that though bankers want to maintain the fear of a Brexit or a split of the Eurozone, the industrialists really don't, because they depend on the euro to have it's actually currency manipulation, because
right.
Because it keeps the euro, it keeps currency low, and they can sell their products. On the other end, in my view, what's happening is with this, when the ghost of a Brexit is over Europe, that's the same thing as having it has the same effects for the banks, because they have capital flows in Germany and in Deutsche Bank. But on the other hand, of course, they can sell their products. And these two interests are gonna have to at some point it can extend. This cannot be extended any longer, and they have to make a decision. And now it's time to make a decision with the new Greek government.
Let's say then that it's the attempt by Tsipras and Varoufakis to play the Deutsche Bank against the smokestack barons of the Ruhr and the big German export industry that really profits more than anybody from the euro. Now, how about the other side of it? There are these rumors that the Greeks have understood that London is one thing, Frankfurt and Brussels, that's another. They've hired Lazard of Paris to try to help them. And the idea being that the British maybe like to see some kind of a haircut on the continent, right? There's a kind of a tactical convergence.
Yes. They hired Lazard because it's the same company that helped with the PSI, I think. The 2012 debt write-off, the private sector involvement, as they call it.
Right.
Which was bad, but anyway, was the same company. Yes, I think that everyone understands that if Greece exits the Eurozone, the Anglo-Americans will play the markets to destroy the euro, and there's no way around that. And yes, they are trying to play the one against the other. Absolutely.
Okay, so what the other thing I'm hearing is that the inspectors of the Troika, and which this is getting personal now, we're reading all about Mr. Blue Eyes, Paul Thompson of the IMF, who has said in the past that the IMF calculations were all wrong multiplier effects. They underestimated the austerity. The austerity is really too much, but that these people don't dare show their faces in public because mobs come after them. That's the Troika, right? The Troika is on the way out. There's no Troika in the Treaty of Rome.
Of course, there's no Troika in the Treaty of Rome. Yes. And I think the Troika is dead. We need not say more about the Troika. There is no Troika. Even Schäuble thinks there is no Troika anymore. They were about to be abolished anyway by institutional forces inside Europe because they were illegal. They were de jure illegal. They were not there wasn't an institutional legalization of the Troika.
Right, so they come in representing private interest. The other thing my sources tell me is that in Rome, Tsipras is the man of the hour. He is a heartthrob. Everybody loves Tsipras.
And the finance minister, the Italian finance minister, who says you should listen to Tsipras.
Stay on a minute, Michael. We'll just wrap up. Stay on for a second. And this is World Crisis Radio. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. And it's the 6th of February, 2015. We're still on the line here with Michael Chiotinis in Athens. And I just want to mention a couple of other things. In the build-up to that interview with Schäuble, Varoufakis gave an interview to Die Zeit, the liberal paper of Hamburg, and he said, well, of course, we're in favor of reforms. We want to reform the Greek oligarchs, and we want to stop their incessant tax evasion. So that's one. The other one is we're looking at next week the European Eurogroup foreign ministers, I guess it is, and maybe finance ministers too, will be meeting on the subject of Greece. So we're looking forward to that. The general idea seems to be Varoufakis is asking for financing up until May or something like this. In other words, right now we're in a kind of a transition. He's trying to get these people to let the new government take hold. And also, we've had the first pro-Syriza large-scale demonstration. That looked like it was pretty impressive. And Tsipras' speech to Parliament on the 5th of February, which is the reopening of the Parliament. But some people have been asking me, how come they haven't enacted these laws, right? Where's the minimum wage and stuff like that? Well, that's just starting, right? The new Parliament is just getting underway. Just your brief reaction to all of this, Michael.
Yes, I was there. I was at this demonstration. It was the first.
Send us some pictures. Send us some pictures.
Yes, I will. I was at this demonstration, and it was actually very weird experience because I've never seen a pro-government demonstration. There was a sense of rehabilitation, a sense of of a new connection between Parliament and the people in the square there. It was a totally different climate. There was no riot police, no nothing. And every piece, it was absolutely perfect. The climate has changed. The approval rating of the government is something like 75%, and we're talking about people. It's the psychology has completely changed. And yes, Parliament is not yet open. It actually opened today, and with the election of the new Speaker of the House, as I suppose, as you call it, the new Speaker is from Syriza. She's a woman, brilliant MP, and she actually she had a record of votes electing her to be speaker, a record of all time. Now, Varoufakis. What's interesting with Varoufakis is that he has avoided the two main kinds of approaches to EU diplomacy. The one was the strategy up until now, which was we are the good students. We do as you tell, as you say, and the other one was the patriotic, Greek proud. We're gonna go and clash, and we're gonna exit the Eurozone or anything like this. The brilliance of Varoufakis is that he has avoided both approaches. He goes with the sense of we are Europeans and we are gonna solve this as Europeans. And they asked Varoufakis, some journalists, what's your weapon? What's the weapon that you're going to use with in regards with negotiations? And his answer was reason, rationality is our weapon, and he's absolutely right.
The eidos, the hypothesis of the higher hypothesis. Michael, let me just get your reaction to a couple of things. European Central Bank says they can't use Greek bonds as collateral because this is now rated as junk. But don't look now. Here in the United States, Standard & Poor's has just paid a fine of $1.4 billion because their ratings were junk. So isn't it time to throw out S&P, Fitch, and Moody's and not let them interfere? The other one is Varoufakis talking about these perpetual bonds. In other words, bonds that would pay interest, but they would have no maturities. I would actually propose doing it the other way. Why not get 0% 50 or 100-year bonds and stabilize the debt situation that way? The growth-linked bonds, I think, are a bad idea. They remind me of what Michael Hudson was recommending to Iceland a couple of years ago, where you give a percentage or it's somehow connected to some other economic variable. But here's what strikes me. What we're going to campaign for here in the United States is, back in 2009, the Federal Reserve under Bernanke put out several $100 billion, right? 275 billion went to 6 European zombie banks: Deutsche, Barclays, Societe Generale, Unicredito, Santander, I think. What would prevent a nationalized Fed from simply saying, "Oh, you got 320 billion of national debt, high interest, fine. We'll take it. We'll transform that into 0% 100-year bonds." In other words, we're trying to play the Greek question into our struggle to nationalize the Federal Reserve. So, just two ideas. Any comment on those perpetual bonds?
Yes, my comment is this: the ultimate solution would be something like you said, but I think that Varoufakis is trying to put them in gradually. In other words, he's trying to set a precedent. He's trying to make them accept that there is something else that can be done, that there is another solution. That's not a one-way street. And when you have some kind of restructuring, then you can open a discussion about an overall restructuring of the EU debt. So he's trying to take some small wins, small gains, and then open the discussion. That's my view of what he's trying to do. Now, of course, we are trying to take control of the ECB, but that's not going to happen overnight, and that needs forces inside the Eurozone to mobilize. And Syriza is not enough. We have to wait for other elections. Portugal will change government at some point. Spain will. And we have to wait for this, I think, because there's no other way. Schäuble is trying to say that whoever does something else is going to be punished. He's trying to punish Greece in order to set an example and not have other countries asking for debt restructuring, because that's not in the interest of banks, actually. And they are maintaining the threat of a Brexit and the eventual split of the Eurozone, because it has the beneficial effects of an actual Eurozone break in terms of capital flows coming in to Germany, the beneficial effects to the bankrupt banks, and but still keeps German industry happy because they have demand for their goods. And I think that's why they maintain the threat without actually doing it. Now,
okay, Michael, that's the end of our segment. We're going to see you next week. Remember, Obama's State of the Union said it's time to end mindless austerity. So the winds are changing in the world. Down with austerity, and every good success to the Syriza government and Prime Minister Tsipras, and to the Greek people. We'll see you next week. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. Now, again, I went through and did a review of this entire diplomacy. It's interesting. In Rome, Berlusconi says that Tsipras is good for Europe, that the old Europe doesn't work. Yeah, well, he knows it. If Berlusconi decides to pull Renzi's string, Renzi leans on Berlusconi now, even though he hasn't been delivering. That is a definite possibility. The Moscow story is obviously central. Putin and Siluanov should get active on this. Osborne, the British Chancellor of the Exchequer, saying that the greatest threat to the world financial situation is the clash, the disagreement between the new Greek government and the European Commission. So that plays it up. In other words, the people who want to strangle Greece say, oh, no, it's not important, it's just a little thing. No, it's a very big thing. And the Chancellor of the Exchequer there in Downing Street has told you that. That's this idea that the British are eager to make trouble for Brussels and Frankfurt. Fine, use that as much as you can. Tsipras made his first trip to Cyprus. Of course, always important for Greek national unity. But let me just point out again, perpetual bonds, in other words, that would be bonds that simply pay a coupon periodically, but they never mature. That's one way to do it. Again, I recommend 0% 100-year bonds where you get paid back gradually. Now, under a rational system, the European Central Bank could do that. But how about the Federal Reserve? Once again, the Federal Reserve under Bernanke lent all kinds of money to European zombie banks. Dexia, a company, got $35 billion. That's 10%, more than 10% of what Greece would need. 6 Euro zombies, along with some other banks, got $275 billion. Hey, if you can lend $275 billion to a group including 6 Euro zombies, why not help Greece? Look, make an argument like this. China is going to take over Greece. If Greece goes down, China will take it over. You want that in the Med? And so forth. So I'm very serious about that. We'll have more about that next time. But now, the control room tells me that we've made it through to Reverend Edward Pinkney in Marquette, Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula on the southern shore of Lake Superior. So let's see if we can get Reverend Pinkney on the line for the first time here since he was put in prison. Reverend Pinkney.
Yes, Webster, right here.
It's wonderful to talk to you, Reverend. How are you? Tell us everything.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to be able to talk to you on your show today. I'm so excited. I don't even know what to tell you, Webster.
Tell you what, we're going to keep you on as long as you can stay on. We're going to keep you on. So take your time and give us the entire briefing. Maybe starting, where are you? How you doing? Everything okay physically?
I'm doing great. I'm in Marquette, Michigan. Matter of fact, it took me 2 days to get up here. And on my way up here, they had me shackled down like I was a common criminal. No heat. They refused to turn the heat on the bus, and we was traveling up here, and they tried to make it as miserable as possible. And I tell you, it was quite a journey.
That's way up north, right? Way up north.
Way up north. It's about 15 hours from my home. Yes, absolutely. About 15 hours from my home. I tell you, this thing is really amazing. Nobody will believe what's happening here today. And let me talk about a little bit about this food. This food is so bad that you wouldn't even serve it to your dog. That's how bad it is. February the 1st, they gave us some rotten potatoes that was black. They called them mashed potatoes.
Whoa.
Well, yeah, it was just that bad. The food is so bad that nobody would believe it. I can't even eat the food here. I can't even eat whatever they have. I cannot eat the food, but it's getting that way. But here's something that's even more important. I go back to court, February the 24th. We got 4 motions on the table, which the judge should have heard the 4 motions before I even left. One for direct verdict, because there was absolutely no evidence that could have proved that I did anything wrong. And actually, I did nothing wrong, but they were trying to make it look like I did something wrong. And that jury issue is major. The prosecutor is trying to help her lie to get her off. But we'll deal with that later, but we got to deal with him, deal with that juror right now. We got to prove that her Facebook connection, she's trying to say, well, she's Facebook friend, but she don't really know it, which we know is a lie, because her whole family is Facebook friends with her, so we know that much. But the point is, we also has the way they sentenced me. It was illegal the way they had done it and everything, so we got a motion on the table for that, and also for appeal bond, which we don't know whether he's going to deny that or not. But we don't care. We're trying to get to the appeal court. That's where that's where we should get some action on the appeal court. But I want everybody out there to know that I'm excited. I'm excited to be here because you get a chance to do something for other people more than anything else, because it's not about Reverend Edward Pinkney. It's all about the people and the people as a group, Webster. So, I'm here, and I miss my wife, I miss my children, I miss the people in the community, but it's all for a good cause. Let's put it that way. It's all for a good cause. So I can't be more happier than this. Let me tell you that.
Reverend, we're trying to focus national, international attention, human rights attention on what they're doing to you. This is a frame-up. It's a railroad. It's outrageous. We're trying to get on every media we can and tell the story.
Oh, absolutely, Webster, because people need to know about this justice system that we're dealing with. Some of the stories that I have heard it's so incredible that nobody will believe it. We walk around here thinking that this justice system is fair and honest, and I'm telling you, it's about as dishonest as you can get a system to be. And the way they did me, listen how they did me. As soon as I was sentenced, they put me in a limo SUV and drove me straight to the prison system. That had never been done before. Never. So we knew there was something wrong at that time. But the point is, what could we do about it? If the people don't stand up and fight back, this is what we're going to get. And it's me today, but it could be you tomorrow. If we don't stand and show these people that we're willing to take this thing to a whole different level, I tell you this, I'm excited. Even though I have to eat this food here, I'm still happy to be here because we get a chance to expose a corrupt system and show people how corrupt it is. And we're going to have to fight to get it done because they're not going to let us win this thing without a fight. because they have all the resources, and they're using our resources to fight against us and to keep me here. Nobody would have expected that it took them 2 days to get me up here. 2 miserable days.
What does that mean? You stopped over somewhere? What was that like?
Well, we stopped over somewhere for a night, and then we got up early that morning and continued to do the journey. And then we stopped in a place called Algae. We stopped there, and we had to stand outside the bus. It was zero weather, and wait for the bus in front of in cold. We couldn't put on our coats because I was shackled. My hands and my feet were shackled, and I'm an unsecured level 1. You're not supposed to be shackled, but by me being Reverend Edward Pinkney, they decided they had to shackle me. So I tell you, Webster, this has been a battle that I tell you that nobody in their right mind will believe.
Reverend, is it true that sometimes when you make these phone calls, you've got to stand out in the cold in a T-shirt?
Oh, absolutely. You have to, anytime you have to be outside in the cold weather and the zero cold. It's extremely cold. And, but it's all worth it, Webster. I get a chance to talk to you and talk to the people, around the world. That's a privilege. That's not just I was looking forward to this day that I'll be able to communicate with you.
Great. Now, we're going towards a sentencing hearing and other decisions back in Berrien County, right, on February 24th. If you give us the rundown so people can represent your cause on the social media and so forth, that would be great.
Absolutely. I want people to put the word out that on February 24th I will be in Berrien County Courthouse, and we will be talking about the issue of no evidence and the conviction. Because people have to understand that if you're going to send a person to prison and mistreat them, that you have to have evidence in order to do it. And that word has to get out. Also, that juror issue where they're trying to save her, because she committed perjury as a juror because she said that she had no connection with the county clerk. And we found out not only was she Facebook friends, but for the last 4 years, Sharon Tyler has been inside the parade where she's the chairperson. So we got some really, really great issues, and also we got that Hall case that if they would have, they should have tried me as it should have been a misdemeanor charge anyway,
right.
93 days rather than 5 years in prison. And
in the background, this lynch mob rally with the sheriff and other local officials, including elected officials, the We Got Pinkney to a standing ovation of this group of people.
Oh, absolutely. The sheriff and Sharon Tyler, when Sheriff Bailey made the announcement that we have now convicted Reverend Pinkney, they gave him a standing ovation. And they was cheering. It was like a lynch mob, the guy said. He said he never saw anything like that before in his life. It's like they had ropes in the back of their pocket just waiting and slinging them around because they have now convicted an innocent man, and they was happy more than ever before. Never before, Webster, has this actually happened in the history of mankind the way that they did me there, because they know that they could get away with it because they're law enforcement. And law enforcement can get away with all kind of stuff, even though it's not correct. But we have to show them. That's why it's important to stand up and fight and claim enough is enough. We have had enough of this stuff. It's time that people all around the world take a stand and start writing letters to this county, telling them that we're not going to take this crap from them anymore. Until we do that, we're going to continue doing the same thing over and over and over again. So this is why I need the people to help out. Also, which is even more important, I got to pay for this transcript, which is going to be over $6,000. And I need people, if they would, to send as much money as possible. They can go to bhbanco.org That's bhbanco.org and contribute, because we really need the funds. Or they can mail a check to Banco, B-A-N-C-O, 1940 Union Avenue, Benton Harbor, Michigan, 49022. Webster, it is crucial at this stage. If we don't get this thing right, they're going to continue doing the same thing they've been doing for years. So now is the time that we take a stand and say no more. Enough is enough. But I tell you, this prison system is something. And here's the news that most people don't know. The Bush family sells products here inside the prison. The Bush family, George Bush, they get a cut even off every phone call that's made. They get a cut of it. Everything that they do, it's all about money. Everything is about money, even the food system here. The more money that they can suck out of the people, that's what they're doing. They're sucking the life out of people. Unfortunately, the people don't understand. They think that they want to lock everybody up. As long as they got people locked up, the fear factor, that's what they're using on people. But I tell you, we are in a real struggle here. We're in a fight for our lives. So we have to make sure that people understand that they have to stop this madness. And the only way they're going to do it, Webster, is that people take a stand.
So, Reverend, you're now in the prison industrial complex, right? You're seeing the mass incarceration right up front. And you're saying the Bush family? Can you just explain that a little bit more?
Oh, absolutely. They're the ones that, when they call us through commissary. And the Bush family is actually running the commissary along with the Engler family.
Engler, the infamous former governor who destroyed general population welfare. There was the welfare system for people without children. He destroyed that in the 90s, and he's now the head of a powerful lobbying group here in Washington, D.C.
Hey, you hit the nail right on the head. And what they're doing, everything they do here is money. When they transfer people across this bridge, they get extra money to do that. And to keep people over here, there's nothing more important than for them. Everything has to do with money. All these little programs they get federal money. And they try to suck the life out of you. Anytime that you file, since I've been here, I've filed about 8 or 9 grievances against them.
You have 1 minute remaining.
And left, Webster. Let me say this. I'll be on next week, but I want you to know that I want people to go to bhbanco.org. Go to bhbanco.org. We need to fund. Or you can mail a check to Banco, B-A-N-C-O, 1940 Union, Benton Harbor, Michigan, 49022. We are in need of financial. I'm in prison, but I will be getting out with the help of everybody who's listening to this program, Webster. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Reverend. Thank you for your unbroken spirit and your defiance and your courage and standing up to that corrupt whirlpool Upton machine there that runs Benton Harbor like a company town and controls all these elected officials. More power to you, Reverend.
More power. And don't forget, April 24th, we're going to have an international boycott against Whirlpool. An international boycott. That's our plan.
April 24th. Okay, we're making a note of that, too. And Reverend, you're up there on the southern shore of Lake Superior,
Thank you
and the
for
wind
using
comes across
Global
from
Telly.
Canada. And I guess that was the allotted time. Marquette, Michigan. Look at the map. It's the southern shore of Lake Superior, and that chilling wind comes straight from the Arctic across from Canada, and that's where they moved Reverend Pinkney. It's about as far as you can get from Benton Harbor and still be in the state of Michigan. So please contribute, bhbanco.org. Find the address there. The next big moment is February 24th, the sentencing hearing. And I'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio. Welcome to the final segment of this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington. So that was Reverend Pinkney from Marquette, Michigan, way up north on the Upper Peninsula, the southern shore of Lake Superior, very remote and above all very cold. at this time of year. Couple of little notes on Tsipras and Syriza. When Tsipras was in Rome, Prime Minister Renzi gave him a tie to put on. Why don't you get a tie on? And Tsipras said, fine, I'll wear the tie when we've solved the Greek debt crisis. He says what we need is a program of economic recovery. That's the vocabulary we need. Economic recovery, New Deal, and the haircut. And, of course, the haircut has already been accepted in principle. There's already been a haircut that turned out to be not enough. And in the meantime, the debts have grown back. The other one is about the French stopover with Hollande, but also with the finance minister Sapin, S-A-P-I-N. And we're looking at perhaps les fourberies de Sapin, that is the machinations of Finance Minister Sapin. I hope so. Hollande said that if you need advice on tax evasion and tax reform, we are experts. Yeah, well, he might say it because one or two members of that government have been forced out because they were stashing money in Swiss accounts. So the French do know something about how to fight tax evasion. It's been uncomfortably close. But now we'll have more on that next week. We're looking forward to the meeting of Varoufakis and Lou. We want to be there to support Varoufakis when he goes to meet Lou at the Treasury here at the White House. We'll find that out. But let's now, without further ado, go to Daniela Walls, the chairwoman of the Tax Wall Street Party, to wrap it all up. She's been very, very heavily engaged on the Pinkney defense front. So let's hear from Daniela. Welcome.
Okay. Well, hi, Webster. I'm going to go really fast like an auctioneer while still trying to stay articulate, okay? Because I'm
right
glad
ahead.
I'm glad you got Reverend Pinkney. So February 24th at 1 p.m. is the hearing where we need to prove the connection that juror Gail Freeling knew the county clerk, Sharon Tyler, who, by the way, we found out this week is now the head of the Berrien County Republican Party, the same group that got up and cheered, "We got Pinkney." This event before the initial sentencing that smelled, remember, to the lawyers and everybody else outside of Berrien County to be a lynch mob atmosphere. We need to.
So let me get it straight. The lying juror, the juror who lied, is now the head of the Republican Party.
Sharon Tyler, the clerk.
The county commissioner.
The clerk, yes, who was a state representative, is now the head of the Republican Party. That same group, that same meeting that got up and cheered, "We got Pinkney."
Right.
But Gail, the lying juror, is in that Republican Party with them. So I have this all. I have some bullet points.
Go ahead.
Okay. We need to prove that Gail Freeling. You can find her on Facebook at Gail Schumacher, Shoemaker, Freeling. If you want to see what she looks like, everything comes back to proving this connection of Gail to Sharon Tyler and law enforcement, especially Sheriff Paul Bailey and the Undersheriff Chuck Hite. I'm sort of in a catch-22 here, Webster, today, because I cannot report everything because I'm playing Aaron Brockovich, meaning that I've been deep in investigative work. So here's what I can report that we dug up. Remember, the more stuff we have, the more of a mountain of evidence grows, and the more on the 24th, the judge will have to conclude that there's a connection here without a doubt. We found out this week that Sharon Tyler's boyfriend owns a steakhouse called the Feather Bone, Feather Bone Steakhouse in Three Oaks, Michigan, where his employees are Gail's two sisters. Sharon Tyler eats there often because it is her boyfriend's restaurant, and it is right next to Gail's house. This restaurant is the hot spot in Three Oaks. This is a small town. It's the only steakhouse. So I was working today on seeing if anybody who goes to that steakhouse has seen the two of them together. I'm going to have to pull in witnesses. I said that after Pinkney's sentencing, Sharon Tyler became the new chair of the Republican Party. Gail is a member of that Berrien County Republicans, too. There's also a Facebook group that they're all in together. So that's the connection I'm investigating. Gail is also the town treasurer for Three Oaks. So she is also, you can't tell me that as the treasurer doesn't know the sheriff or the head of the Republican Party in that area. The connections are mounting and mounting and mounting, but it's my job to prove more and more. The more we have, the more the judge can't deny it. Then there's all the other stuff I went over the last weeks with that Three Oaks Flag Day Parade. I'm not going to get into that. But basically, Gail is the chief organizer where both Sharon Tyler and Paul Bailey are prominent participants in that small parade. Then Gail works to organize the Blossom Time pageant where Paul Bailey is the head of the board. and Sharon Tyler puts the crowns on the pageant kids' heads. And remember we talked about how Sharon Tyler and Gail were Facebook friends? Well, Sharon Tyler is also friends with Lori Freeling and Terry Sue Freeling, the two sisters. Those are the ones that were waitresses at the boyfriend's steakhouse. This means that Sharon Tyler is friends with the family. I've got to prove this family connection. Gail's defense responded to our motions, saying that just because you're friends with somebody on Facebook doesn't mean you really know the person. However, Facebook does have a terms of service contract, and that is legally binding. And a friend request contract says, when you accept somebody on Facebook as a friend, it says, in bold, do you know this person in real life? Accept the terms of service. And you have to click yes. When you accept a friend, you click this. So I have a copy of that, and we've added that to our packet for the 24th. I'm looking for all sorts of ties. The more we have, the more it mounts. If the tie was just Facebook, it would be weak in itself, but we now have a lot more. And I spent this morning, I've been scouring pictures of the Berrien County youth fair where all of their kids tend to animals together. So this is, we'll see where that goes. My experience in D.C. this week after the Syriza win was interesting. I can want to report that this win was an ideological earthquake, I think, and it was a shift. Talking to some insiders, the effect, I think, in D.C. was palpable. Washington officials, I guess you could say, are like blackbirds. They go where the power shifts. And suddenly these new ideas that won were now acceptable. The Tax Wall Street Party's platform was no longer radical or impossible to them. I didn't get any more of this, good luck making that happen, Webster, but the insiders could now perceive it. The fact, they seemed interested that if they didn't perceive it, then they could lose power. Our platform was perceivable and regarded now, and in fact, as it was talked about as the only way out of the Depression. I heard terms like central bankers thrown around for the first time on Capitol Hill more than climate change. And I was talking to one of our future candidates last night who was frustrated and said, these Democrats just don't get it. They're not offering anything. They're not going anywhere. They've made themselves irrelevant in this area, and I can't figure out why. And I told him they have no idea, like all the other parties, of necessity. And we discussed this idea of necessity. I mentioned it on the last episode. No other party seems to have the concept of necessity. Syriza leads with necessity. All the immediate humanitarian stuff is up front. Necessity means that people in the Northeast can't pay their heating bills tonight and their house is freezing. There's no regulation that you can't turn off the heat in winter. How is that possible in the modern Western world? We find ways to bail out Wall Street, but we can't find a way to make sure that everybody has heat. In Benton Harbor, Reverend Pinkney was fighting. It was turn the water back on. These are immediate human needs. For Syriza, it was turn the electricity back on. 50 million people depend on food stamps to eat. People can't get jobs. People can't afford to send their kids to college. And yes, college is a necessity. Libertarians, people are losing their homes because they can't pay their mortgage. People my age can't buy a first house. We can't pay back our student loans. We don't want to be competing for jobs at Starbucks and as wait staff. All of these other parties go back and forth with stuff that really won't solve these immediate problems, stuff that doesn't really make a difference to most of us, and it's really just a big tweak in disguise for Wall Street banks. And then there's the slow process reform stuff and WIMP stuff. The WIMP stuff has to go out of fashion now, and people need to demand that we provide for the general welfare. I hear... Is that the music, Webster?
That's the music, Daniela. Thank you very much, and thank you for all that excellent work you're doing, including on behalf of Reverend Pinkney. And this is going to add up and make a difference. So, people, I was on WBAI, KPFA San Francisco, and the Black Tower up in Rochester, New York, WYSL, I guess it is. Take a look at those, and we'll see you next week on World Crisis Radio.